Can the government just ban Bitcoin? Because if they can, everything you think you own could disappear overnight. No warning, no compensation, just gone. It is one of the most common fears new Bitcoin holders carry around quietly, and it is completely reasonable to wonder. Governments have frozen bank accounts, seized assets, and shut down financial platforms before. So the question is fair, but here's what most people who ask it do not know. The answer depends entirely on something most ban discussions never actually explain. I'm Sats, and today we're going to make this make sense. Let's keep it simple. Let's start with what governments can actually do, because the fear of a ban is often based on a misunderstanding of what banning Bitcoin would actually mean in practice. A government can ban the purchase of Bitcoin on regulated exchanges within its jurisdiction. It can instruct banks not to process transactions with crypto businesses. It can make it illegal for its citizens to hold or transact in Bitcoin. These are real levers that exist and that some governments have already pulled. China is the most prominent example. China banned Bitcoin mining, banned crypto exchanges, and declared cryptocurrency transactions illegal. That happened. It was real. And here is what else happened. Bitcoin kept running, the price dropped, recovered, and eventually reached new highs. Mining moved to other countries. Peer-to-peer transactions continued. The people who wanted to hold Bitcoin in China found ways to do so. The ban was real and consequential, but it did not kill Bitcoin. Now, why is that? This is the part that most ban discussions miss entirely. Bitcoin is not a company. It is not a server. It is not a database sitting in a building somewhere that a government can walk into and switch off. It is software running simultaneously on thousands of computers in dozens of countries. No single government controls all of those computers. No single jurisdiction has the authority to shut them all down. Bitcoin's continued operation does not depend on any government's permission. It never has. To ban Bitcoin globally in a way that actually made it stop working, you would need every major government in the world to cooperate simultaneously, compel every node operator and miner to stop, and prevent the software from being downloaded or run anywhere on Earth. That is not a realistic scenario. Even governments that deeply oppose Bitcoin have not come close to that level of coordination. What governments can do is make it harder and more costly to use Bitcoin within their borders. They can restrict the on-ramps and off-ramps. They can make it legally risky to hold. They can exclude it from the regulated financial system. All of that is real and worth taking seriously as a risk. But there is a meaningful difference between making something difficult and making something impossible. And that distinction is where most of the fear about a Bitcoin ban comes from. People imagine a ban working the way a ban on a centralized financial product would work. You shut down the company, you freeze the accounts, it stops. Bitcoin does not work that way. Now here's something worth understanding about where the regulatory trend is actually heading. Across most Western countries, including the United States, the direction of travel over the past several years has been toward regulation rather than prohibition. The US has approved Bitcoin ETFs. It has established regulatory frameworks for crypto assets. The Clarity Act has been moving through the Senate. These are the actions of a government that is trying to bring Bitcoin into the regulated financial system, not one that is trying to eliminate it. That does not mean a hostile regulatory environment is impossible. It does not mean risk is zero. But the idea that the US government is likely to wake up tomorrow and ban Bitcoin outright is not well supported by the direction policy has actually been moving. There is also a practical political dimension worth acknowledging. Bitcoin ownership in the US has grown significantly. Millions of ordinary people hold it. Pension funds hold it. Publicly listed companies hold it. Banning it outright would mean wiping out the savings of a large and politically engaged group of voters. That is not an appealing position for any elected government. Here is the risk that is worth taking seriously, even if an outright ban is not. Regulatory risk is real. Rules around Bitcoin could change in ways that make it more difficult, more expensive, or more complicated to hold and use. Tax treatment could become more burdensome. Access to banking services for Bitcoin businesses could be restricted. These are genuine risks that a Bitcoin holder should factor into their thinking, not as reasons to avoid Bitcoin, but as context for understanding what they own and what environment it operates in. The question, can they ban it, has a clear answer. They can try. Some have tried. None have succeeded in stopping it. The question worth sitting with is, what can they do that would affect me practically? And the answer to that one is more nuanced and worth thinking through properly. Before you go, here is what to take away. Governments can restrict Bitcoin within their borders. They can ban exchanges, restrict banking access, and make holding it legally risky. China has done exactly that. Bitcoin kept running. What governments cannot easily do is stop Bitcoin globally. It runs on thousands of computers across dozens of countries with no central point of control. Shutting it down completely would require a level of global coordination that has never happened and is not realistic. In most Western countries, the regulatory trend has been toward frameworks and oversight, not prohibition. The US in particular has been moving toward integration, not elimination. Regulatory risk is real and worth understanding. An outright global ban is not a realistic near-term scenario based on how Bitcoin actually works and where policy has been heading. If you want to understand why Bitcoin is structured in a way that makes it resistant to centralized control in the first place, the video on Bitcoin nodes explains exactly how the network enforces its own rules without any central authority. Watch that next. Stack smart, stay curious. See you in the next stack.